Hello, and welcome to Marathon Swim Stories, where we connect with marathon swimmers around the world to find out how they got started, what makes them tick, and why they keep going. It's where we explore the human side of the superhuman feats of endurance swimmers, the connections that we have with each other, our support crew, and the waters we cross. If you've ever stood at the edge of a body of water and wondered what it would be like to swim to the other side, you're in good company. I'm Shannon Keegan, marathon swimmer, water relationship coach, and founder of Intrepid Water, where I virtually teach swimming freedom. Freedom to get started, shed the confines of the pool, or your preconceived notions of what's possible. Find out more at intrepidwater.com. In my conversation today, I'm joined by Pavel Dagorov. Pavel's partner, Margareta, is a fellow swim mastery coach colleague of mine, and in his story we hear how Pavel transformed his technique to go from not being able to lift his arms for 3 days after swimming across Lake Zurich to feeling like he could jump in and swim back to the other side. I love how Pavel talks about the wall, not the wall that some swimmers describe during a marathon swim, but the walls we construct around ourselves that limit what we perceive as possible. I hope that you enjoy Pavel's story. How do you say your name? I want to say it right.
In Bulgarian, you mean? Pavel.
How would you like to be introduced?
Well, in English, it's normally Pavel, something like that, and that's okay because the L sound in the Slavic languages is really a pain. So
what is it in Bulgarian?
Pavel.
Okay. Well, I'm here with Pavel today, the best I can do. Thank you for joining me. I'm really excited. Tell me your swim story, Pavel.
Hi, Shannon. Glad to be here. Glad to be talking with you. And as I wrote to you, it's not a very big story. I haven't done swims like you have, 20 hours and more, but there's a lot I have done in the range of 14 to 26, and it's a very nice range. But now I sort of want to up it a little bit, and I hope that's going to happen this year. So what actually happened to me was I started very young in a swimming club in the east of Switzerland, because in Bulgaria, where I was born and bred up to the age of 7, you don't get taught to swim. Yeah, you could decide to swim in a club, and then you would eventually learn to swim. There are some very good swimmers, but you don't learn it in school. And when I came to Switzerland, I couldn't swim. That was this little odyssey we had just as we came as refugees to Switzerland. And the first swimming lesson in school was awful. That was really terrible. It was hell for me because I couldn't swim. And all the others sort of did a breaststroke thing, a bit of front crawl, something crawlish. And they just kept above water. And I had to cling to the pool side and couldn't let go and was terrified. And it never occurred to me before that I can't swim, because you have to compare yourself to someone.
We do.
And there
wasn't
nature. Anyone.
Yeah.
And the next thing I did, I joined a club and started swimming in a club. And there came a second revelation. I'm not done for competitive swimming. I'm not built for that. And I don't like it. And all of the swimming there in the club was competitive, and you just trained for that, for races, and I hated it. I mean, I loved learning to swim. Very soon I was the fastest in my class.
Oh, wow.
So back at school, that was nice. But the actual training was awful. And I didn't know why, because I loved swimming, but it was a 25-meter pool. usually in the winter. And I didn't have goggles at the time. I don't know why. No one told me that
We
it
didn't
would
have
be
goggles when I was a kid
better
either.
with
Yeah, we just
goggles.
suffered.
So I was red-eyed because of the chlorine every time, and my eyes hurt, and I couldn't very well see why I did that. It was because I loved swimming. I kept at it for a few years, but then I just dropped out because I wasn't competitive. And at races, I didn't do well. There was no motivation to be had from that.
Hmm.
And it was really like a riddle for me. I was flummoxed. What's happening? What do I have to do? Because I like to swim. And for a long, long time, there wasn't any light at the end of the tunnel. I kept on swimming, did 1K swims maybe 2 times a week at the local pool, and thought, oh, well, that's very good. I'm getting better. I wasn't getting better.
Wait, what's your age at this point?
My age was 16 upwards. So for a really long time. And I know which year it changed. I learned about the Lake Zurich swim, the marathon swim, pretty soon. I think I was 25 when I heard the first time about that. And at the time, it was like this huge challenge. It was even impossible to think about it. I didn't know anyone who had done that. There wasn't, now you open the internet, you find so much information and so many people that do marathon swimming. You have the databases for that, and it's the people. And at the time, there wasn't anything like that. It was just you in your own cell and your own environment. And in my environment, it was unthinkable. But I started thinking about it, and little by little, and little by little, I just kept chipping away at it, and suddenly I had like a chink in the wall. I could see through this wall and thought it possible. And it was still a long time before I really got down to really applying and swimming it. And the first time I swam it in a relay with a couple. So we were three and on a boat. And because it was the first time, it was pretty easy to get a boat. Usually, when you've done it once or twice, you don't get a boat anymore. You have to organize it yourself.
Oh.
That's a little bit difficult if you're not from Switzerland. If you come, a lot of people from South Africa, from America, and so on, New Zealand. So it's pretty challenging for them. But we had this boat, and every one of us swam for an hour. Then we changed. That was the relay rule, and I found it very boring. It's because
The getting in and out, or what was boring? Or
at
the
that
swimming?
point I could swim more or less comfortably for an hour. It wasn't a problem. But I swam for an hour, and I somehow had the feel of the lake. But then I got back on the boat, and then for 2 hours you did nothing, and you just cooled down and waited your turn. And it wasn't the thing I wanted. And it dawned on me pretty soon. But okay, we finished. It wasn't that bad. We finished in a good time. But I knew right away, just when I stepped off the boat, I have to do it alone. But that was another process, to first I had geared up to do it in a relay, and then I knew I wanted to do it alone, and then I started working at the wall again to
yeah.
to get a window to the other side. And that took me another 2 years before I was really ready. And I got a friend of mine who was really an avid fisherman, and he has a kayak. And he was game right away. He even wanted to do it to accompany me, and that was settled. So that was the first Zurich marathon swim for me. At the time with a wetsuit, it was still a few years before I dared to do it in skins without the wetsuit. and I don't like wetsuits.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't know that at the time because
Oh,
I
okay.
hadn't
Okay.
I had never swum for 8 hours in a wetsuit, and that was a very painful experience. I was
Yeah.
bruised all over,
Mm.
and there are people that don't bruise because of the wetsuit, but me, I was just an open wound. All my body was bruised, and I finished it quite a good time. But that was, of course, because of the wetsuit. And afterwards, I couldn't lift my arms for 3 days.
Oh, goodness.
It was, I don't know how I finished. It was, I think it was willpower. It was, I just wanted to do it, and there was no going back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Once you
yeah,
started, you weren't just gonna.
once you started,
Yeah.
and
Climb. You
yeah,
couldn't climb in the kayak.
quitting wasn't an option, and the kayak wasn't very big.
Yeah.
I knew that actually I couldn't climb on the kayak; it would capsize. So
Yeah.
okay, I had to
You
keep
had to
swimming.
finish. Do you remember any mental like challenges, or I mean, so were you aware that your wetsuits
It was chafing, and I was
yeah.
aware of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
You just
all the
kept
way,
going.
all the way. And at a certain point, at the time, I didn't know Ross Edgley and what he did with his wetsuit
Right.
on the
Right.
Great Britain swim, and I didn't have any gaffer tape to
Right.
just wrap it around my neck.
Right.
So I had to live with that. And at the time, I mean, we are swim mastery swimmers, and we keep our head quite level, in a normal position. But at the time, it was just like everyone else. I was
So you hadn't learned
turning
swim
my head
mastery.
like that, and I hadn't heard of swim mastery. I hadn't heard of TI yet. So that was the first time, and I was very proud of myself. And the best thing was I knew what I wanted to do. It was so clear. Oh wow, okay, I can do it, and I will keep doing it, and I will try to do bigger swims sometime in the future. Because I don't know, I can't remember who said it, that you shouldn't go with your body where your spirit hasn't been. And that's exactly it. I couldn't yet go there. So I kept at the swim. I did it once more with a wetsuit, and then I quit wetsuits forever.
Took 2 times.
That was enough. And the third time I was registered to swim with a wetsuit, but I didn't because the water was quite warm. It was 24 degrees, something like that. And I thought, no, I'm going to do it without it. And I was much slower, an hour or more, but I didn't chafe. I wasn't bruised. I didn't chafe. It was heaven.
Could you raise your arms over your head?
Yes, yes. I mean, I got better at it. But what we were talking before, that actually you don't have to swim that much actually to do such swims. I realized that because I couldn't, because of my work, I couldn't swim more than 4 to 5K a day, if even that, and not every day of the week. And I always thought that's not enough, man. I have to swim more. I have to put in more distance. I'm gonna die in the water. No, but it worked, and I felt good. I didn't feel exhausted in the water, or oh man, I'm not gonna finish because of exhaustion. And then I heard about TI, and because I at that time I knew that I wanted to swim long distances. It was very alluring because it was said to be efficient and graceful, smooth, so you could just save your energy, and that was what I was looking for. But how to do that in Switzerland? I mean, Terry wasn't from Switzerland, and I still. Well, internet wasn't in its infancy anymore. I could have found out, but it needed Margarete, because I read a lot about TI. I watched videos, but it didn't click without someone to really show it to you and do some hands-on, and And that's when I got to know her. And that's not so long ago, 2016.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we started working. She as my coach. We weren't a couple yet. And then came a point, maybe I had 10 lessons with her and practicing in between. So 10 lessons equates to 10 months. So it was really quite an interesting time and very challenging because I had to unlearn so many things. You know how that is.
Yeah.
and first I had to really be honest with myself and concede that I can't really swim.
Right?
That I have
Yeah.
to learn to swim first. But that came quite easy. I'm ambitious, but not really self-centered in that way. That I think I can swim already. I don't have to learn a thing. And that was really a blessing because I could absorb everything she tried to teach me. Of course, I couldn't do it right away. I was struggling at first because there was so much to unlearn. And then came I don't know, I think it was the 5th Zurich Lake swim with TI in the background. And the two beat and a lot of things of swim mastery were already in place. And I swam it. And I remember I didn't feel a long all the swim through. I didn't feel like it was very easy, but when I got out of the water, I thought, oh, I could just jump back in and do it again, swim back.
Yeah. Wow.
That was an amazing feeling.
Yeah, that is amazing.
And my arms didn't hurt a bit, so there was nothing like 3 days of pain or immobility. And then I knew that I got something out of TI. And then, of course, I can't remember the exact date, but swim mastery started, coaching training started, and I have been trying ever since to build it into my swimming, my long distance swimming, because that's what I really like. I don't really like training in the pool. It's okay, and I mean, at my age, I have to keep mobile by training, but the real thing is in the lakes or in the sea. But we're in Switzerland. We're a long way from any sea.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that I somehow got through that wall, that was keeping me away from those distances and somehow telling me, no, you can't do it, and just keep away, it's not for you. And I don't as yet think that anything is possible. I mean, I'm thinking about the signature swim. I'm trying in my head to swim the distance. I'm going to swim the Wörthersee, a 2-time swim, because one length is 17K, and in September there are quite a lot of swims. There is the 17K swim, but there is also a 34K swim. So twice, you just swim it twice.
Is that the one in Sweden?
Wörthersee in Austria.
Oh, Austria. Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I'm inching up to the signature swim. Get somehow to those, to get it somehow in my head that 72 kilometers is something that can be swum.
Have you ever wondered what happens in your body and your brain when you swim? Check out my new podcast, At the Interface, an invitation to non-swimmers and swimmers alike to explore what happens physically, emotionally, psychologically, and physiologically when we operate at the interface of air and water. Is it just something that some people have, like the ability to see that chink in the wall, like to start pushing themselves? like I'm kind of curious as a coach and a swimmer myself. And, and I understand for some people, for them, it's seeing through the wall that they could do 1,000 meters, and for other people, their Everest is a 5K or whatever. But do you think everybody has the ability to see that they could be more? Or do you think I don't know, a little thought experiment. I kind of wonder.
Very interesting. Well, I have been thinking about something like that, and I think that everyone could do it, but not everyone wants to do it. It's to start thinking about, for example, 26K. That's what I know. To start thinking about it, you have to have something in your head which points you in that direction. And I know a few swimmers here from our Basel Open Water Club that would like to swim more, more than 14 or 15. And maybe they're eyeing those 26. One of them would like to do it. I'm not sure whether he will actually, but in the end, it's like jumping over your own shadow. They could do it. I see people, 70, 80-year-old people that swimming Lake Zurich. They can do it. It's not that difficult, but somehow to get to the point where you really can think it and want to do it, maybe you have to have a bit of craziness in yourself that not everyone has.
I like to think instead of crazy, I call it curious. We're just curious, right?
I'm thinking of something else here because my brother is an artist. He's a painter, and we have been talking all our lives about art and how, if you look at art today, a lot of people say, "Oh, I could do that," but they don't. That's the point. They don't. They could do it, but they don't. And it's in the doing that you really get to be an artist, because you can't just think you can do it and just leave it at that and think you're an artist. You're not. You have to really do it, and that's the difference. So how do you get from one point to the other? How do you really start to paint, for example? And because they look at a painting which is monochrome blue. Well, how difficult can that be? But they don't do it.
They don't do it.
To do it, you have to have something in yourself which pushes you to do it, because it's even to paint a painting just monochrome blue is work. And
it's harder than you think.
And you have to have something in yourself, some motivation that keeps you going at it and putting in the work every day. So what is it? It's not that you can't do it. It's not beyond you, but it has a spark, something that pushes you to do it. And I think it goes for swimming, that there has to be something that pushes you. And if there is that thing, you can do almost everything. Did you read about I think she has an Italian name, but she's French, and she did Lake Geneva 2 times with a wetsuit and taking her rest on the boat. But all the same, she did 100 and nearly 140K without sleeping. At least she took rests on the boat. She ate on the boat and had a wetsuit. But how do you start to imagine that? And in the end, I think you're in the water, and you don't have to race anybody, right? So it's not about speed. You can take your time and just swim at your own speed, which is in Lake Zurich is a bit different, because there I want to finish fast,
I think for some people, yeah, it is. Like you, I think that for some people, though, getting in a marathon swim, that's what holds them back, is they don't think they'll win, or they don't think. It's interesting because I've actually talked to people who are, their appeal is like that they'll do a long distance swim and they realize like, like the pool of competition kind of falls away at certain distances. So that's their draw is to keep doing it. I don't know. It's fascinating to me though, just a little bit of our human nature to kind of explore it, I guess, in the water setting.
I mean, it's done by the Sri Chinmoy people, and it's about self-transcendence, as Sri Chinmoy put it, and that's true because I'm racing myself. I want to be a bit faster than last year, so I'm not racing against other people because you don't see anybody. It just gets drawn out, and you're swimming alone. Maybe there is someone just overtaking you, or you're overtaking somebody, but that's it. You lose all the people after an hour.
Right, yeah,
at the most. But I would really like to swim like you did in Lake George, just me, just my own tempo and not thinking about anyone else. And that would be Lake Geneva for me.
For me, that was an interesting development in my journey to do the self, where you hire the pilot and it's just you in the boat. And because there's a mindset shift, that you're setting the pace, they're setting the course. You have to, there's some trust that has to be there in your crew that, I don't know, there's a whole new, it's a different level than just going, to sign up for an event where there's a bunch of people. But I think it's a beautiful thing. I guess for me, it's been a beautiful thing. I'm sure that you'll enjoy it.
Did you start right away with solo swims where you swim alone with a boat?
No, it was, one was my first one. I wonder if it was Tahoe. Because I did Mercer Island where it's like, I can't remember, 25K maybe around this island outside of Seattle in a lake. And you had everyone had a boat and a kayak, but there was still like 13 of us. So you're still, you're starting with other people. But Tahoe might have been the first one where it was, that must have been it. Because I remember sitting down with the pilot and then like, showing you the chart of the course and telling you like, how when things are going to happen. But it was really, everything was about me. And like, we're here, your spot is right here. And we're going to keep an eye on you. And I was just like, all of a sudden I'm the center of attention. And you're like, what? So it's this weird, it is a weird shift, I guess, to some degree. But yeah, and it's a weird, even at Lake George, it felt weird to be that everyone's attention was on me the whole time. but it's, I guess at the end of the day, I think that enhances the fulfillment when you complete it, is like, I don't know, that I guess that so much goes into it. And like, you have to, I don't know what the deal is with the attention thing that I keep getting stuck on.
Is there a lot of pressure to finish, because you have all those people attending? And...
To some degree, I think there is maybe some pressure. Yeah, I think there is. Yeah, but this isn't my interview, Pavel. This is your interview. The motivating pressure, I would say.
Yeah. I just know the point in Lake Zurich where I want to quit. It's usually after 6 hours, where I just think, what the hell? What's the point? Let's have a beer. Let's get on shore and have a beer with my friend. And maybe it was because I allow myself to think that I can overcome it and think, okay, just there will be a beer a bit later. So.
I tell my swimmers sometimes to visualize that meal and that beer, whatever it is, whatever it's going to be at the finish line, like visualize that and help it draw you in, because it will be there, it's just not there yet. See, that's one way to push through.
And I don't have a problem with the temperature in Lake Zurich, but I'm a bit anxious about the Wörthersee in Austria, because in September it's usually it can be 19.
Mm-hmm.
It can be 22, but it can be 19, 20. And I have to finish, the deadline is 12 hours. So I have to finish in 12 hours or I get pulled out. But 12 hours in 19-degree water, I haven't done that yet.
That's 66 for the American people listening. What will you do to kind of prepare for that?
I'm taking cold showers every day.
Wow.
It helps. It really helps. But what we don't have, and you have, so much for luck, cold water all year round. Because now I could swim in the Rhine, and it's maybe 9 degrees. You have to calculate that in Fahrenheit.
48, that's chilly.
48, yeah. But speaking of temperature, I mean, Loch Ness is about 11, 12.
Yeah, I've got my own acclimatization strategy. Is there, is there kind of a speed component? I guess for me, I'm working on kind of a speed component, just like feeling like that, if I can run my engine hotter, I can stay warmer longer. But I guess that's one way I've thought about working on the cold. I think there's a lot upstairs that you can work on too mentally with, because if you think you're cold, guess what? You're cold.
Yeah.
It's the quickest way to end a race. It's just to focus on the horrible bad parts, right?
Yeah. So I'll try to get in cold water as much as I can somehow, and then just see what happens. There was once, Lake Zurich was once 22. I'm sorry, I can't do it. Can't do it in Fahrenheit. 22, and that was
71.
A bit at that time, on the chilly side, but it worked. It's even with the 2-beat, where you don't do really a lot with your legs to keep warm. It worked, but there are those passenger ships that churn up all the water, from the
you
depth,
get little pockets.
And then suddenly it's 4 to 5 degrees colder than it's on the surface. I'll prepare some with our lakes, and it's pretty. They're cool for a pretty long time. Yeah. Till June.
Yeah, the hard part, even for us here, finding cold water in July, August, you got to go up higher elevation. But
and
cold
then,
baths.
When I got together with Margareta, we started swimming together. When we're in a lake, we take our inflatable kayak, and then we just change. First I swim, and then she swims, and the other kayaks. And we did quite a lot already of very nice swims in Great Britain, England. So the Thames Marathon is one of them, and it's now that I can enjoy it. It's like sightseeing from the water. You're swimming this incredible countryside, and it's 14K downstream, very gently downstream, so you're not much helped by the stream, but you have time to look around.
Yeah,
and
I like river swimming.
Really amazing.
It's fun. Oh, awesome. Well, I'm really excited to hear about your swim after your conclusion of your swim in Austria, and hopefully visiting you in Switzerland next year.
Yes, hopefully. That would be nice. We have a lot of small lakes to show you.
Oh, I love it. Love it so much. Thank you, though, for sharing your story today, Pavel. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you were inspired by even just a moment of this story, please share it with a friend. You never know what might push someone out of their comfort zone so that they can find out what they're capable of. And please leave a review with your podcast provider. It truly helps others discover the raw and honest stories of these amazing endurance swimmers. Thanks for listening.